Okay, you guys, so we are going to go ahead and do an interior review on the 2020 Hyundai Tucson SEL trim. This is the vehicle that replaced the Elantra. Long story short, the Elantra was just needing multiple surgeries. And I mean, if you really think about it, guys, if you need your appendix removed, then your gallbladder removed, and then you got to fix the hernia, then you got to do this, you're basically introducing so much trauma to the actual components that ultimately the vehicle can be deemed unsafe. Now, Hyundai unfortunately did not buy back the Elantra, so I had to go ahead and trade it in, but luckily they gave me a really good deal on this one, so I can't complain too much. Actually, I could actually have this paid off in 3 years. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about the interior, ultimately some upgrades that I see from the Elantra SEL into this model, and we'll talk about some features that actually could make it less competitive and some features that can make it a little bit more competitive as well. So I always start my interior reviews on the back seat, so we're going to start with the back seat and move our way forward. First of all, the seats in the back are actually really comfortable. If I were to sit straight, and granted my passenger seat's not all the way back, but if I were to sit straight and I had this passenger seat all the way back, the seat would still not be touching my knees. So I do like the fact that this vehicle provides excellent back seat room, especially with leg room, because it seems to be, you know, important in terms of if you have a family or if you have, you know, lots of passengers at one time, it definitely makes a huge difference in terms of comfort. So I do like the fact that I have a lot of leg room back here. Despite me being 5'10" and a half, I could sit back here no problem, even on a road trip. I do like the fact that they also added the cargo nets in the back of the seat. That actually does help a lot, because I used to like to store things in the back of the front seats just because, like, you know, it could be like a photo or something like that that I could put back there, or even like a pamphlet. So now that I have this storage again, I might make use of it, but I do like the fact that it's on both the seats, as that's how it was on my previous Honda Accord. The SEL trim does have back seat vents. That actually makes me really happy, because I didn't realize that this was the third trim. I thought this was only the second, so I went with the SEL, even though I didn't realize they had the value edition. But I'm really glad I went with this vehicle, because again, a good deal, all of that stuff just kind of came into play, and it worked, and kind of magic worked out in me getting this vehicle. I didn't want another Hyundai, but I didn't have much of a choice either. So the backseat air vents, they are really nice. The only thing that could actually hurt this in terms of being, I know this sounds kind of really petty, but some vehicle, or most vehicles that I've seen on YouTube recently, have 2 USB ports in the back, and this one only has 1. So that could actually cause some buyers to be like, oh, I don't know if I want the Tucson now because I only have 1 charger back there. I mean, come on, guys, just take turns. It's not that big of a deal. I'm not even mad about this. I actually really like this SUV. So the Tucson feels smaller than what it is, and there's a few reasons why. The headliner is actually really short compared to that of the competitors. This was an issue on the previous generation Elantra, not the 2017 model, but 2016 and below. It used to have a really short headliner, and this Tucson also runs into that problem. Granted, it is an SUV, so your taller passengers can still get in, but the fact of the matter is that the car itself, it does have a small headliner, so the windows, I noticed, like, open really fast, but it's also because the headroom is so small. But again, I'm 5'10", I can easily, let's see if it works, like, it's not hitting my head whatsoever. You see this little egg head up here? Not hitting my head whatsoever. I have a lot of room up here. So really, if you're like 7 feet tall, that's when you gotta worry. So this is the back seat of the vehicle. The seats are comfortable. They do recline. They don't slide forward or backwards, but they do fold down 60/40, and you also get your cargo package in the back, which mine does have. It does have that cover to prevent you from running into problems with people seeing your stuff. Look at it, there's the lesbian Outback. So we're both lesbians now, we both have SUVs. Door panel wise, as you can see here, the padding is still only on the elbow regions, so it's one of those things where it is harder throughout the panel. That's a little bit of an interior quality issue, but it's not necessarily something that is unbearable. It's just, with the higher trims, I think you'll actually see this extend all the way through, so it'll be a little bit softer touch material. There's the Outback, and here's my Tucson. So with the SEL, you do get the unlock feature here, so it is nice. Let's get in my passenger seat here, because I like to show things from this side actually. Oh boy, I'm sitting a little far up. Hang on a second. So the passenger seat is manual, while the driver's seat does have all the motors and the, I think it's a 6-way. I'm not quite sure in terms of the adjustability, but not too bad there. So front door panel, you have the same exact thing. The padding is just on the elbow. The only thing that I'm concerned about, and this was also a concern in the Elantra, is I've already had passengers in here, and look at how the fingerprints stay on the plastic. So that is the only issue I did notice with this one, is that I'm gonna have to keep it extra clean, just because it's the same thing as the Elantra. It's just a cheaper material. It does get your fingerprints on it pretty easily, so you're gonna have to kind of wash it down. The glove box does dampen, so it doesn't slam on your knees. I've already made use of it with a lot of my documents and stuff like that that I need for work. Moving into the center, the air vents, I'm surprised, are a little bit lower. I would think that they would actually be more by the center screen over here, because that would make more sense to me, to make it look a little bit more sophisticated instead of this sort of add-on look that they're having with the screen up here. I like the fact that the screen is higher up, because then it doesn't take your eyes off the road as much. So that's something that I'm actually pretty happy about. The dashboard, very similar to that of my Elantra. It is harder touch, but I'm not going to be putting my hands on it all the time. So I mean, seriously, I'm not going to worry about that too much, as long as it doesn't crack within the next 10 years. The center is actually pretty nice. I do lack that little cover that had that the Elantra had, so I do have to store my items in here to avoid them being seen. But you do have a little pocket for your phone and key fob, 2 cup holders. The drive mode now, you only have sport and regular, so eco mode has been discontinued, but the car itself will shift up so quickly anyway. You're not necessarily going to be needing eco mode all the time. You do have an electronic parking brake. You also have your shifter with a shift boot there. You have two outlets, and you also have a USB port along with your aux cable. This one is equipped with dual zone climate control. If you were to get the one that's just below this, it still has the 4 fan speeds, so all of this is missing, but this right here will actually look a little bit smaller. So even though it really isn't, it makes the SUV actually look bigger with all of these buttons going through. Again, we talked about the air vents, and we have our little screen here. Like I said, I do like it. It has all the same buttons as the Elantra did. It's just this one is up here rather than in the center here. So you don't have to look down. You're more or less looking up and with the road. So let's move to the driver's seat now. What's funny is I actually kind of like sitting in the passenger seat of my vehicle. Very odd, but it's whatever. There's a Subaru again. So just a little bit of an exterior shot. This is the color that I decided to go with. It's like a graphite mixed in with a little bit of blue. I feel like it accents the car really well, and also my personality, because I like personally darker vehicles, unless if they're white. For some apparent reason, I have a weakness for white cars. I'm like car racist, I guess. I don't know what that means. So, going into the driver's seat, you do have all of your auto controls. You have auto up and down for just the driver. One thing I did notice, however, is my windows are locked, but it only locks the rear windows. It doesn't actually unlock or lock the passenger window. So that was something that kind of I found very interesting. I wonder if it's a safety feature, like to prevent date rape or something. But definitely was something that I wasn't expecting, because usually it only locks the it'll lock the other 3 doors while the driver's side remains unlocked, so that's kind of weird. Moving into here, the center dash is actually pretty similar. Hang on one second. It's very similar. Okay, that caught me off guard. Very similar to that of the Elantra. The gauges are a little bit bigger. You do have a little bit less menus, because they kind of condensed all of the equipment down. So you only have 3 separate menus versus I think the Elantra had 4, but all of this stuff is still the same in terms of your features. Car only has 108 miles. As you can see, I bought it with 10 miles and it was on a full tank, so it's not necessarily the best on fuel right now, but I will give that a little bit longer to kind of break in, just because it is a bigger displacement engine. Not too bad though. The steering wheel is a 3-spoke steering wheel, very similar to that of the Elantra as well. It is actually the same size as the Elantra. I was able to fit the steering cover on there, so I was actually pretty happy. This is the 3rd car from Hyundai that I've used the same steering wheel cover. I'm really hoping it's not going to say anything else. You do have your controls here for your blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, and traction control. Overall, it's nice. The lane keep assist is very aggressive in this vehicle, however, so it's not necessarily something that I was too fond of, but I definitely like the fact that I have it. I have the forward end collision on this thing, and so I can't really complain too much in terms of features, as they actually lowered my car insurance pretty significantly. So folks, this actually concludes my interior review. I actually feel very comfortable with this vehicle. Also, one thing to mention, I forgot to, I do have the heated seats, and it does come in 3 stages, so that's also a good thing as well. But some setbacks that I see that ultimately can cause it to suffer is that we still don't have like a garage door opener here. I mean, granted, now I have the vanity lights again, thank God. But there's just a few features that this car ultimately misses that other cars provide. So it's one of those things where, I mean, granted, this is like being nitpicky. Like, I'm not by any means being like, it doesn't have a vanity mirror, like, I can't buy it. But I mean, you have to also understand how people think. Like, you got to prepare for any worst scenario sort of deal. So this is my 2020 Hyundai Tucson. This concludes my interior review at this time. I will get a driving video of it a little bit later. As of right now, I get to go pick up the fiance from the airport. He actually knows I bought this one versus the last Elantra. I bought it without him knowing. So I definitely will not be doing that again. So this was a bigger purchase. I actually had to report on this one. So with that, folks, I'll go ahead and let you guys go, and we'll kind of just go ahead and go from there. Have a good one.